Hi, I'm Maris. The day I buried my father, my husband sold our house behind my back. I came home from the funeral to find strangers loading my life into a truck, while he smiled like it was nothing. But that was just the beginning. Fake documents, stolen identity, a custody war, and now, FBI files that could destroy him. How did it get this far? And what would you have done? The road back from the cemetery was too straight, too quiet. Dust floated in the late Arizona light like everything around me had slowed down, except my thoughts. My father was gone. I hadn't even changed out of my funeral dress, still clinging to me like a second skin, itchy from sweat, grief, and the weight of everything that wouldn't stop piling on. I turned onto our street. Home. Except, something was wrong. A moving truck, parked crooked across the driveway, its back door yawning open like a monster mid-feast. Two men in gray uniforms passed each other silently, arms full of boxes I recognized. My box of photo albums, our worn living room pillows, Ryan's Lego box. I slammed the brakes, gravel skidded under the tires. Gavin stood on the porch, casual, arms crossed, a sliver of sun in his hair like this was just another Tuesday. He didn't wave, just watched. I stepped out slowly, heels wobbling on the loose stones. "What the hell is going on?" He tilted his head slightly, then pointed at the truck. "We're moving." "Well, technically you're moving." I blinked. "What?" "It's not your house anymore," he said, his voice flat. "I sold it last week." My lungs caught somewhere between breath and scream. "You... what?" He shrugged. "You were at your mother's, dealing with funeral stuff. You didn't even notice the listing sign went up, did you?" I stepped forward. "You can't sell the house without my signature." His lips twitched. "Actually, I can. Remember that power of attorney form you signed last year, when we were streamlining finances? You should read fine print sometime." He said it like a punchline, like he hadn't just ripped the ground out from under me. I looked around, movers carrying out the couch where Ryan used to curl up beside me for Saturday cartoons. A man dropped our wedding mirror. It cracked clean and sharp against the driveway. Gavin didn't flinch. "You bastard," I whispered. He pulled out his phone. "Ryan's at David's. Figured it'd be easier this way. You can pick him up after dinner." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Where am I supposed to go? "I booked you into the Richmond extended stay. 1 week, prepaid. Should give you time to figure things out." He paused. "Car's yours, out of courtesy." "Courtesy?" He motioned to a mover to be careful with the kitchen boxes. "Grace and I need to go over closing paperwork. She's already at the office." My stomach dropped. Grace, the realtor, blonde, perfect teeth, always laughing too loud at Gavin's jokes. He walked down the steps without looking back. "Oh, and I kept the good coffee maker. You never really got it right anyway." I watched his BMW disappear down the road, dust kicking up behind his tires like a goodbye that burned. I stood there in my black dress, in front of an empty house, with my life in boxes I no longer owned. My hands stopped shaking, not because I calmed down, but because something else settled in. Not sadness, not fear, something colder, harder. That's when I knew Gavin hadn't just crossed a line, he'd declared war. The motel smelled like old air freshener and regret. The kind of place where the pillows feel too thin and the light through the blinds slices across the floor like a warning. I hadn't slept. Not really. My body had shut down for a few hours, but my brain had been running marathons. Theo was curled up on the other bed, clutching the same worn sweatshirt he refused to let go of. His father's college sweatshirt? Of course. I stared at the ceiling, letting the silence crawl under my skin. It wasn't grief that kept me still anymore. It was something quieter, emptier. I reached for my phone. No new messages, no missed calls. Gavin hadn't even bothered to fake concern. Outside, the sun had started to rise. The sky bled soft gold across the parking lot, but the weight in my chest didn't budge. I sat up, braced my elbows on my knees, and just stared at my son. His face was peaceful, too peaceful, like he was somewhere I wasn't invited to follow. When he finally opened his eyes, there was no smile. No, "Morning, Mom," just a glance. Then he rolled away and said nothing. "You hungry?" I asked, my voice a little too chipper, a little too hopeful. He shrugged. Not really. Something cracked inside me. Theo, what's going on? He hesitated. Then came the dagger. You left. That's what Dad said. I blinked. Excuse me? He reached under the pillow and handed me his phone. A message glowed on the screen. It's okay. I just need time away. I love you, Mom. I never sent that, I said. Theo, that's not from me. He sat up slowly, guarded. Then who did? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the answer was too insane to speak out loud. I stepped outside for air, clutching my phone like it might scream the truth for me. Instead, I called Ellis. Something's wrong, I whispered. Really wrong. Define wrong, he muttered through what sounded like sleep. Gavin's pretending to be me. He sent a fake message to Theo, making it look like I walked out on him. Pause. Then a low growl. I'll start digging. Back inside, Theo was already dressed, tying his shoes. Can we go get pancakes or something? I nodded, my voice catching. Yeah, let's go. We drove in silence. Every red light felt like a countdown. My son, 3 feet away, but slipping further with every second. At the diner, he stirred his orange juice with a straw, eyes fixed on the swirling liquid. Grace told me you didn't want to be around anymore, he said casually. Said it must be hard for you to love anyone after what happened with Grandpa. My heart froze mid-beat. She said what? He didn't even blink. She said you were broken inside, that it wasn't your fault. I stared at the napkin in my hand until I realized I'd torn it to shreds. I felt heat crawl up my neck, settle behind my eyes. Grace, Gavin. They weren't just taking things away from me. They were replacing me. I gritted my teeth. Don't believe everything you hear, okay? He looked up at me, half shrugging. I don't know what to believe. That hurt more than anything. More than the house. More than the couch on the driveway. More than Gavin's voice telling me I wasn't needed. Back at the motel, I locked the bathroom door behind me, pressed my back to the cold tile wall, sank down and buried my face in a towel. I couldn't scream. I didn't want him to hear me fall apart, so I started a voice memo instead. I don't even know why. Maybe just to prove to myself I still existed. My name is Maris, I whispered into the speaker. I'm still his mother, no matter what they say. I stared at my reflection in the fogged mirror. My eyes looked older, my skin dull, but somewhere beneath it all I was still here, still fighting. He's trying to erase me from my own son's heart, I said. And if I let him, then I was never really his mother to begin with. It started with a voicemail. Hi, Mrs. Wynn. This is Dana from Flagstaff Credit Union. I'm calling regarding some urgent inconsistencies in your investment portfolio. Please call me back as soon as possible. Investment portfolio? I hadn't had more than $600 in my savings account in over a year. Still half asleep from another night of fragmented rest, I sat at the edge of the motel bed and played the message twice, then a third time. The words stung more with each replay, slicing through the dull haze that had wrapped around me since the funeral. Theo was still asleep, one arm flung over his pillow like a boy at peace. I didn't want to wake him. I didn't want him to see me unraveling again. I stepped into the bathroom, locked the door, and called the number. Hi, Dana. This is Maris Wynn. I got your message. There was a pause on the other end, the kind people use when they're trying to soften a blow. Thank you for calling. I didn't want to assume anything, but there are 5 new accounts under your name. One includes a $60,000 investment. That's not mine, I said, instantly. I figured. The activity looked off. The e-signatures, the IPs, but it's all connected to your SSN. I thanked her, got off the phone, and immediately called Ellis. He didn't even say hello. What now? I told him everything. The voicemail, the account, the $60,000. Silence. Then, send me your login info. Give me 2 hours. I did, and I waited. That stretch of silence felt longer than the funeral, longer than the fight on the porch, longer than every second Gavin had stared me in the eye and lied without blinking. 2 hours later, Ellis called back. Sit down. I'm already sitting. There are 6 open lines of credit, 3 business-related, 2 personal, 1 mortgage. I froze. Mortgage? On what? Your old house. He refinanced it months before selling, under your name. He forged everything, power of attorney, signature, but it doesn't stop there. My mouth went dry. He linked them all to offshore accounts. Cayman, Belize, some through dummy LLCs. He's laundering. Through me. Exactly. My stomach turned. How could he do that without me signing? Ellis hesitated. Because he didn't need your signature. He used biometric verification. What? I checked the financial registry logs. He submitted DNA-based consent, thumbprint, retina, blood. And just like that, the air left the room. 16 years ago, I donated blood during Ryan's birth complications. Gavin had volunteered to store the hospital forms. I never saw them again. I pressed my palm to the wall, steadying myself. He stole my body to betray me, I whispered. Ellis was quiet. We need to get ahead of this. If the feds look into this and think you were complicit, I wasn't. I know that, but proving it won't be easy. I stared at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked tired in a way I couldn't scrub away. I texted Gavin. We need to talk, he replied instantly. You should really stop poking at things you don't understand. It's not a good look. I gritted my teeth and typed back. You used me. His reply. Maybe you shouldn't sign things you don't read. You always were so eager to trust me. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and dropped flat. I walked over, picked it up, and opened it again. I couldn't afford to break anything else. Minutes later, Ellis sent me a file titled Proof of Intent. Inside it, a signed form dated 6 months before my father died. Gavin's signature authorizing a full financial transfer of assets, jointly owned, but only his name filled the page. The subject line read, Our Future. He didn't just plan this, he built it like a trap. And I walked in smiling. The photograph fell out of an old manila envelope I hadn't touched since the move. I wasn't even looking for it, just searching for a pair of scissors to cut Theo's science project string. But there it was, soft at the corners, sun-faded. A toddler version of Theo, giggling, arms outstretched toward a woman with soft eyes and long brown hair. She looked nothing like Grace. Nothing like me. I flipped it over. No writing, no date. Just that moment, frozen in time, whispering a name I hadn't wanted to say out loud. Who is this? I asked Mom that evening, holding the photo under the motel's yellow light. She stared at it longer than I expected. That's Elise, she said softly. Something cold settled in my gut. You never told me you had a picture of her. She hesitated. It was tucked in a card she gave me, years ago, before everything changed. Everything. The word echoed like a warning bell. My skin prickled. That night, I couldn't sleep, not with her face burned into my memory now. So I called Julian, Gavin's old friend, Elise's brother. I hadn't spoken to him since Theo was in diapers, but I needed answers. He agreed to meet the next day, in his office at the bank. A quiet, windowless room that smelled like stale coffee and resignation. Julian looked older, tired, not just in the face, but in the way his shoulders slumped, like he carried guilt in every bone. You look like hell, he said, attempting a smile. I mean that kindly. I've earned it, I replied. He sat down, fingers drumming against his desk. So why now? Because someone has to tell me what really happened to your sister, I said. And I think you've known for a long time. Julian exhaled hard. She came to me once, years ago, said she was scared, that Gavin was into something, dark. She didn't have proof, but she wanted out. She wanted to take Theo and disappear. Why didn't she? I asked. She never got the chance. He rubbed his face. She's signed something. Gavin called it a settlement. She vanished 2 weeks later. I was told to stay out of it, so I did. My breath caught. You were her brother. I know, he whispered, and I still wake up hearing her voice. He slid a file folder toward me. Inside was a document labeled Confidential Agreement. I scanned the pages, each line colder than the last, waiver of custody, non-disclosure clause, forfeiture of legal recourse, and at the bottom, my name. I notarized this? I whispered. You thought it was an adoption finalization. Gavin told you it was just a formality. My hands shook as I pushed the document away. He used me to erase her. Julian didn't argue. He just looked like a man who'd already lost everything. That night after Theo fell asleep, I sat outside the motel. The desert air was cool. still, like it was holding its breath with me. Julian had forwarded me a voicemail Elise left him just days before she vanished. I put my earbuds in, held my phone like it might crack in half, and hit play. "If something happens to me, don't let him raise my son alone." Her voice trembled, but it didn't break. When the message ended, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I whispered into the darkness, "I won't." I was done grieving. Now I was hunting. The knock came just after breakfast. 3 sharp taps, like a gavel cracking against my spine. I opened the door to find a delivery guy in a wrinkled polo, holding out a manila envelope with blue tabs and red stickers. Certified. Legal. "For Maris Wynn," he said. "Need a signature." I signed. My fingers felt wooden. Theo was watching cartoons, laughing at something with that soft, half-focused joy only kids manage when the world around them is on fire. I stepped back into the bathroom, shut the door, and opened the envelope. The papers were thick, formal. The headline was clear: Petition for sole legal and physical custody, filed by Gavin Kessler. The language hit harder than I expected. Mother is currently experiencing emotional instability following the death of her father and the loss of permanent housing. I stared at the words, like they were about someone else. Every paragraph twisted the facts like a blade. Every concern dripped with fake compassion. She is overwhelmed. She lacks consistency. She is unable to provide a stable environment. I had just buried my father. I had been evicted without warning, and now I was being called unfit. I paced the floor, trying to remember the last time I truly felt grounded. It had all started to unravel months ago, hadn't it? The night Gavin brought me tea. "Chamomile," he said. "You've been running on fumes. Sit, rest. Just for once, let me take care of you." I did. I trusted him. That night, I missed Ryan's teacher meeting, slept through my morning shift. My head was a fog I couldn't shake for 2 whole days. I remember telling the urgent care nurse I just felt off, like my body wasn't syncing with itself. And now those records, my sudden fatigue, were filed neatly among the evidence in a custody petition. I called him. He answered like he'd been expecting it. "Maris, good morning. You filed for custody? It's not about you," he said smoothly. "It's about what's best for Theo." I pressed record, quietly. "You poisoned me," I said. A chuckle. "You're not seriously playing that card. You've always had episodes when under stress. I mean, even the hospital flagged your records after your dad died." "You set me up," I whispered. "If you push this," he said, voice sharpening, "I'll push back harder. They'll dig into your medical history, your late-night ER visit. Pain meds prescribed to your father's name but picked up in yours. Do you really want to do this, Maris?" I didn't flinch. "I'm not scared of you," I said. "You should be." The line went dead. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I made a list. Every deal Gavin had ever mentioned, every name he dropped after too much wine, every email I remembered, every file he kept locked in his home office. I sent a single text to Ellis. "We go nuclear." And the next morning, I walked into a downtown law firm, handed the receptionist my name, and said, "I need a family law attorney who doesn't blink at blood." They want a custody battle? I'll give them a war. The call came in just after midnight. I was sitting in the bathroom again, knees pulled tight to my chest, scrolling through old photos I couldn't bring myself to delete. The screen lit up. Grace. I stared at it for 2 rings too long. "Don't hang up," she said the moment I answered. Her voice was trembling, frantic. "I found something. You need to meet me, alone." "Grace, please, it's not a setup. Not this time. I swear on my daughter's life." I almost said no. My better judgment screamed no. But something else, instinct maybe, said I had to hear her out. Because if she was scared, that meant Gavin was losing control. And fear, I knew too well, only showed up when someone had something real to lose. We met in a park lit only by a single flickering street lamp. She looked thinner, smaller, like secrets had hollowed her out. "I shouldn't be doing this," she said, digging into her purse. "But I can't sleep. I see her face when I close my eyes." "Elise?" I said. She nodded and handed me a USB drive. It was scratched, dusty, the plastic had yellowed. I found it in his travel bag, hidden in the lining. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't listen. I couldn't. I did. That night, back at the motel, Ellis loaded it into his laptop while I paced behind him like the room was too small to hold the weight of what we might hear. The file had no label, just a timestamp. 3 weeks before Elise disappeared. Then her voice filled the room. "Please, let me go. Don't do this to our son." I stopped moving. "I know what you're doing," she said. Her words were slurred like she'd been crying for hours. "Gavin, this isn't just money. These people, they don't forgive mistakes." Silence. A chair scraped. A man's breath, sharp and close. Then Elise again. "If something happens to me, tell Julian. Tell him not to let you raise him alone." I couldn't breathe. The file ended there. Nothing more. Just that haunting voice and the quiet it left behind. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence stretch like smoke. Ellis didn't say anything. He knew better. "She knew," I whispered. "She tried to run." And Gavin made sure she didn't. I nodded slowly. "This isn't just custody anymore. This is survival." Ellis turned the laptop to me. "It's gone from every server, every backup. She probably saved this to the USB before he wiped everything else." "She thought ahead," I murmured, even when she knew she wouldn't make it. I closed my eyes. I didn't cry. I couldn't. "We use this," I said. "But not now, not loud. We bait him first." Ellis raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "I'm sure." The next morning I called Gavin. Calm, measured. "Let's talk," I said. "Just you and me. About Theo." He agreed. We met at a cafe downtown, public, safe. He looked polished as ever, like betrayal had only sharpened his edges. I didn't bring the file, just a smile. "You're early," he said. "Couldn't sleep." He smirked. "You always were sentimental." I stirred my coffee, slow and steady. Funny what people leave behind when they're hiding something, isn't it? He stilled. Only for a second, but I saw it. The flinch, the flicker. He knew I had something. He just didn't know what. It wasn't just a recording, it was the crack in the mask, and I was ready to tear it off. She didn't knock, she pounded. By the time I opened the door, Grace was already crying. Her makeup streaked down both cheeks, lips pressed in that way people do when they're trying not to scream in public. "I need to talk," she said, already stepping past me into the room. God, Maris, I'm so sorry." She collapsed onto the edge of the bed and crumpled like something inside her had snapped. "I thought she ran," she said. "I thought Elise just left." I didn't say anything. He told me she was unstable, that she got scared and disappeared, that she didn't want the responsibility anymore. Grace shook her head violently. "But I helped him, Maris. I helped him forge the listing. I handed him your documents. I thought I was winning something, but all I got was this." She pulled an envelope from her purse. The corner was torn, the paper inside folded and creased, but unmistakable. It was a photo. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, with a pink backpack and curly brown hair, walking home from school. Looking over her shoulder. Completely unaware someone was behind her, taking a picture. There was no note, no return address, just the photo. My heart dropped. "He's warning me not to talk," Grace said, voice low now. "But I already have, haven't I?" I sat beside her, the photo still burning in my hand. "You need to go to the FBI, now." "I can't protect my daughter if I'm dead." I met her eyes. "But you're already in it. The only way out is through." We sat in silence for a long time, long enough for the clock to click past midnight. Grace looked so different now, not the smug woman from our last holiday party, not the realtor with tight smiles and perfect lipstick. She was a mother, cornered. "I'll testify," she said finally. "If you can keep her safe, if you swear to me—" "I swear," I said, "and not just to you, to Elise." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and stood. The line had been drawn. She crossed it. The next morning, I called Agent Keene. "I have a witness," I told him, "and a second USB, hidden, off Gavin's radar, with names, wire transfers." He didn't ask how I got it, just said, "Meet me tonight. Secure location, no one else." I hung up and turned to Grace, who was already going through her files. "We make a list," she said. "Every name, every bank, every date." She paused, her hand shaking just slightly. He thought I was dumb enough to trust him with my life, but not with my daughter's. The building was beige, windowless, and so nondescript it made me paranoid. Government spaces always had a way of whispering, "If you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't find the door." Agent Keene met me in a conference room that smelled like stale coffee and laminate. He didn't shake my hand. "You know why you're here," he said. I nodded. "You have questions. I have something that might buy me the answers." He slid a folder across the table. "You're already listed in 5 flagged transactions. One ties to a Cayman shell company under your maiden name." I opened the folder. My own name stared back at me, stamped on foreign transfers and internal memos I'd never seen. "If I don't act now," he continued, "you won't just lose custody. You'll face criminal charges. He built this web using your name as the spine." I swallowed hard. He was going to let me take the fall. Keene nodded once. "That's exactly what it looks like." When I got back to the motel, Ellis was already there, laptop open, face pale. "Got it," he said, spinning the screen toward me. An email from a fake address mimicking mine. Subject, appreciation. Body, thank you for your continued trust in our partnership. It's been a pleasure laundering your funds over the last 6 months. Attachments, contact names, transaction details. He wasn't just erasing me. He was burying me alive under his mess. I sank into the chair and stared at the screen. My pulse throbbed in my jaw. "He wanted me gone," I whispered. "Legally, financially, as a mother, as a person." I opened my bag and pulled out the second USB Grace had handed over. The one with Elise's voice, the one with wire transfers, the one Gavin never knew she'd kept. Back in Keene's office, I didn't flinch. I handed it over. He plugged it in. His mouth tightened. "This," he said slowly, "buries him." "I want immunity," I told him. "I want full custody. I want him out of Theo's life, permanently." "You'll need to wear a wire." I didn't blink. "I'm already in the fire. Might as well light the match." We scheduled the meeting for the next morning. Gavin wouldn't expect it. He always assumed I would fall apart before I fought back. That night, I sat alone in the motel's parking lot, staring at the mountains in the distance. The sun had bled out. The air had a sharp edge. I slipped the recording device under my scarf, zipped my coat, and whispered to the empty sky. "You thought I was your puppet, but I'm the last voice you'll ever hear before it all burns. Tomorrow, I take back everything." They cuffed him in the courthouse lobby. Gavin barely flinched, even with a camera phone raised from across the marble floor and the clicking of a pen echoing louder than it should have. His jaw clenched, suit pressed, hair perfect. He looked like a man arrested for the inconvenience of it all, not the reality. I watched from the mezzanine. No one knew I was there. Below me, everything we'd lived unraveled under fluorescent lights. I remembered the day we got married. I remembered the way he laughed at Ryan's birth, holding him like he had just discovered what love was. I remembered too many things that didn't deserve remembering. Agent Keene met me outside, away from the crowd. One of his partners flipped. "We confirmed the accounts. Grace's testimony sealed it." "And Elise?" "Elise's name has been cleared." It landed softer than I thought it would, like the wind letting up after a storm that had already broken everything. A week later, I stood in front of a judge. Gavin's lawyers were nowhere to be found, withdrawn. His custody motion had evaporated with his credibility. The judge looked over the files and spoke slowly, each word deliberate. "This court grants full legal and physical custody of Theo Wynn to Maris Wynn," he said. "The mother has demonstrated extraordinary effort to protect her child in the face of significant and calculated opposition." I held it together until we got home. Theo didn't ask about Gavin, not once, but he slept closer to me at night, his small hands always reaching for reassurance even in his dreams. We moved into a smaller place 2 towns over. Nothing fancy, quiet. The kind of house where wind chimes sound louder and the mail actually arrives on time. One afternoon I got a package. No return address, just Julian's neat handwriting and a note inside. Found this in Elise's things. Thought he should have it. Inside, a worn leather notebook and a few sealed envelopes. Letters, some dated, some never sent, all addressed to Theo. I read one aloud to him that night. He sat on the floor cross-legged, eyes wide but silent. "If you're reading this," I said softly, It means I didn't make it, but you are loved, more than you will ever know." Theo didn't cry. He just leaned into me and asked, "Was she a good person?" I didn't hesitate. "She was brave, just like you." That night, he slept with the letter under his pillow, and I sat outside on the porch, feet tucked under me, coffee going cold in my hand. The sky had started to bloom again. Not pink, not soft, but alive. The ghosts were still there. Elise, my father, even the version of me I used to be. But they weren't haunting me anymore. Just reminders, proof I'd survived. I opened my laptop and created a new document. Title: For Elise. Some stories don't end with revenge. Some end with the truth finally being heard. If you've made it this far, you know this wasn't just a story about betrayal or even justice. It was about identity, about reclaiming it when someone tries to rewrite your worth. I lost everything: my home, my trust, my place in my own child's life. But I didn't let that define me. I fought back, not just for survival, but for the truth to breathe again. Sometimes the people we love the most will be the ones who test us the hardest, and when they do, we have a choice. Let them shape us, or let that pain sharpen us into someone stronger. So here's what I've learned. No one gets to silence your truth if you're brave enough to speak it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to take your life back from someone who tried to control it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. If this story touched something deep in you, comment 1 inch or tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if it didn't connect with you, I still want to know why. Honest conversations matter here. If you believe in stories that show strength through struggle and light through the cracks, go ahead, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Your story might be the next voice someone needs to hear.